The Caribbean American Cultural Arts Foundation is a national organization based in Atlanta, Georgia. Founded in 2016, we are dedicated to the development of cultural arts and educational mentorship programs. We're committed to our community and focus on the study of advancement and the presentation of Caribbean arts, humanities, and most importantly, our culture. We're a teaching organization with a strong belief in passing down knowledge and information to the next generation of cultural leaders. We currently host collegiate, mentorship, and career placement programs to assist young millennials. The Caribbean American Cultural Arts Foundation mission is to support exceptional educational programs and services for the next generation of cultural leaders by providing funding to programs that promote cultural leadership through mentoring, career advancement, and artistic development. For more information, visit www.caribbeanculturalarts.org. Leadership, community, culture. The Caribbean American Cultural Arts Foundation. Look out, bird, here we come, up and running.
Let me start that one here. Like how Martin Luther King would have started. My dream, my dream, my dream, my dream.
The Caribbean American Cultural Arts Foundation is a national organization based in Atlanta, Georgia. Founded in 2016, we are dedicated to the development of cultural arts and educational mentorship programs. We're committed to our community and focus on the study of advancement and the presentation of Caribbean arts, humanities, and most importantly, our culture. We're a teaching organization with a strong belief in passing down knowledge and information to the next generation of cultural leaders. We currently host collegiate, mentorship, and career placement programs to assist young millennials. The Caribbean American Cultural Arts Foundation mission is to support exceptional educational programs and services for the next generation of cultural leaders by providing funding to programs that promote cultural leadership through mentoring, career advancement, and artistic development. For more information, visit www.caribbeanculturalarts.org. Leadership, community, culture. The Caribbean American Cultural Arts Foundation. Look out, bird, here we come, up and running. Comfort comes from knowing that others have experienced the same journey that you have. And solace comes from those who will learn to sing again. Poet Helen Rice shared this equalizing human factor in her writings. Today we celebrate Solace virtual series. On behalf of the Caribbean American Cultural Arts Foundation, we are here to inform, engage, and also celebrate through art, music, and information. During this COVID-19 pandemic, we have decided to inform our community and also engage it with an artistic flair. So on behalf of all of us, to your family, we say enjoy the Solace.
To Michael Thomas and the board and staff of the Caribbean American Cultural Arts Foundation, thank you so much for having me this afternoon. As we recognize the importance of mental health awareness this month, I am reminded by a quote that says, "Mental health is not a destination, but a process, and it's really about how you drive and not where you are going." The health of the human mind is important now more than ever because of COVID-19. And this deadly pandemic has changed the course of our lives. It really does remind us, doesn't it, of how fragile life is and how it can change in an instant and how it can throw off our ability to handle change. That's why it's vital for mental health professionals to stay at the forefront of this conversation, because life is shifting very fast for many people and they're just having trouble keeping up. People are really hurting out there. So it makes this occasion all the more important and necessary. Now, before we introduce our panel, we want to thank the City of Atlanta's Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs for partnering with us on the Solace series. They recognize the vision of the Caribbean American Cultural Arts Foundation to engage, inform, and inspire during COVID-19. They're also matching every single dollar donated to CACAF up to $2,000 to support our COVID-19 response, and it's been an incredible one. We also want to thank Onyx Media Services for partnering with us today to support our technical video production and live stream services. I've done work with Onyx and I can tell you that they are fabulous. So Onyx Media, thank you so much. Now, Solace, which is a 6-week virtual series and outreach campaign, already began touching lives impacted by COVID-19. I want you to take a moment and take a look at the foundation's work to support our frontline heroes at Emory University Hospital, Midtown Atlanta. Let's go to the video.
Hey, hey, start it now. Hey, allow we do it now. Step forward, I move forward. I step forward. Everybody, it's time to get up and start moving. Leaving all your problems behind it. We're resting on to our victory. Oh, yeah. I woke up this morning and I feeling nice, but the path that I chose comes with battles to fight. As long as I'm living, my future is shaping, and where I am headed, got no time for problems. All the weight on your shoulder, put the problems behind you. If you fall down, just get up and get your head off the dirt. And when they try to backline you, and they talking behind you, don't let nothing bother you.
Now, in just a moment, you'll hear from our panel of experts, but first, here's poet and author Artemis Sky McNeil.
Hi, I'm Artemis Sky McNeil, author and motivational speaker, and I'm very proud to be a part of the series Solace with the Caribbean American Cultural Arts Foundation. I wanted to start by reading to you from my book, Keys of Love. Internal words turn into energy. Spoken words turn into power. Written words turn into goals. Never take for granted the true miracle of language, whether it's through thought, in our mind we reach battles no one else can hear, or whether verbal or written expressions. They are nouns, adjectives, verbs, placed one after another that turn into daily quotes, mantras, quips, maxims, mottos, or proverbs that we use to better ourselves and share with others to change, improve, and enhance our gratitude, emotions, and well-being. This is daily empowerment. Beautiful words strung together as pearls, which both adorn our spirit and bring practical value to our lives. Would you agree? Sometimes some of the strongest words, affirmations or aphorisms, come in small packages. One of the ones I'd like to share with you today, I call the motto. 7 words that pack a punch. Use your strengths to offset your weaknesses. Use your strengths to offset your weaknesses. The truth is, we all have weaknesses, either circumstantial, environmental, chronic. Some of these we just can't help. But do we want to be defined by them? Because for every weakness we have, we also have a strength. That when we look at both and focus on both with the same intent and view, we can take that weakness and take a strength and make it equal. So, say for instance you have a chronic illness and you know that it's something that you are going to live with. But do you also have a strength that helps you to offset it? What defines you, the weakness or the strength? So while you have this chronic illness, do you also have endurance? Do you have a positive mindset? Do you have a goal that puts that weakness in a box from time to time so that you can enjoy your life through the strength that you have? Every time you have a weakness that you're looking at, put it to the side. Take a strength that you also have and look at that and see if the two can offset each other. Again, we want to respect our weaknesses. We never want to deny them, but we also don't want to be defined by them. It's up to you, and you know that you should give yourself enough credit to look at your strengths with the same strength or more that you look at your weakness. So once again, the motto today, a very short, 7 words but packs a punch affirmation: use your strength to offset your weaknesses. This can help us mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Again, this is Artemis Sky McNeil, wishing you great mental health, peace, and love.
Thank you, Artemis, for those powerful words. That was truly beautiful. Now let's introduce our incredible panel. Shauna Wilson is a licensed mental health counselor and is founder and owner of Revolutionary Change Counseling in Apollo Beach, Florida. Dr. Nicole Craigwell Sims is the Assistant Commissioner of Health in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Commissioner, great work if you can get it, right? Chris Scott is the founder of Coaching Forward International and the COVID-19 Coaching Support helpline based in Metro Atlanta. And Sameka Yisrael Johnson is the founder and owner of Committed to the Journey, a counseling practice in Largo, Maryland. Welcome, ladies, and please unmute. How are you all doing today?
Excellent.
Excellent.
Great. And I have to tell you, and I say this with all earnest heart, that you all look fabulous, professionally speaking, of course. Hashtag we want to stay out of trouble, Dr. J. All right. So welcome, and I've got to ask you, and we'll go to each one of you, and we'll start with you, Dr. Sims, asking you, how were you impacted personally by COVID-19, and how are you dealing with this?
First, I want to say good afternoon to everyone, and thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here and to contribute to today. Personally, for me, it's been away from my most family. I am originally from Trinidad, West Africa. That's where my parents are, co-family are. So being away from them in a time where family is together has been quite difficult, aside from taking care of everyone else that's in the room.
All right. And let me ask you, Shauna, how have you been doing with COVID-19? I know you have a very unique journey with it.
Yes, absolutely. So it's actually hit a little close to home to our family. We did actually lose 2 family members to COVID-19 on my father's side, which is Jamaican. But with that, it's definitely been very eye-opening for all of us. Our family is definitely going back to the basics and the fundamentals of taking care of ourselves, taking care of each other, and really focusing on the needful things. But overall, we're doing well.
Right, and it sounds like you're using a lot of positive mental attitude to get through this, but all of our condolences on your losses, but certainly we honor those who've passed, and we're going to make a greater life for those who are still with us. Chris, how about you? If we talk about, if you talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. I know that you've also struggled with COVID-19, as all of us. How have you been able to deal with it, and what have you learned from this?
Well, you know, I have to say that, and first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you. But a lot of our family members have been affected by COVID in New York City. We've lost some family members, some friends still struggling through it in the hospital. And then also my husband is an essential worker. So we're dealing with him coming home every day and having to, you know, kind of declothe and make sure that we're okay. So social distancing taking a place a lot in our home. So it has affected myself as it has everyone else.
Well, Chris, please remind your husband that he is a superhero, but he's not superhuman, so he has to take care of himself too.
That's right.
Thank you for giving him the support and strength to go out and allow us to be here today with our lives and to look forward to the future. And finally, to you, Sameka, if I may ask you, you're in Largo, Maryland. What have you all been experiencing out there? Chris and I certainly have been in the center of the pandemic, but I know you all are going through it too. What has been your unique journey with COVID-19?
Great question, and I want to thank everyone for allowing us the opportunity to be here, especially during Mental Health Awareness Month. So here in Maryland, you know, we're in a unique position because we're very closely aligned with Virginia as well as Washington, D.C. So we are minutes away from multiple states. So we've been under a stay-at-home order. I have some loved ones that have lost family members to COVID-19, as well as some individuals who have recovered from it. So we're very grateful for that. Being in a health profession, myself and my husband are both mental health therapists, so we've been working throughout this time. So we've seen it affecting us personally as well as on the professional front.
And so let me go to you on this, Commissioner. What are some of the things that you're seeing as some real challenges for people of color, especially since we are disproportionately affected by COVID-19 in so many different ways? What do you see as our unique challenges? What are we dealing with right now?
One of the challenges we definitely had was getting members of our community to even seek counsel when it came to the stay at home, isolation, levels of anxiety and depression rising. Prior to COVID-19, unfortunately, a lot of persons, they never sought counsel. They always felt as though it showed weakness. They never wanted to embrace the fact that it was okay to go and speak with someone. So when COVID hit and we had the stay at home and there was no physical connection to the outside world, of course, those levels increased. And so we found it difficult, even though we pumped into the media almost on a daily basis for my department, avenues for assistance with behavioral and mental health. It was a bit of a struggle for persons to embrace that and to utilize it to assist them. But we're seeing that turn around now as we're introducing virtual chats, we're introducing different ways for persons to get comfortable. We're seeing individuals beginning to use those resources, and we're very grateful for that.
And Shauna, are you seeing also with the clients that you're working with that finally we're getting out of that headspace of the stigma of not talking about mental health challenges? Notice I didn't say mental health issues. I have mental health issues, but real mental health challenges that all of us share.
Yes, absolutely. I think that this conversation for all of us that work in this field, we've been waiting for this for a really long time. But it's especially now with the challenges that we have with COVID, your mental health journey is an individual daily awareness. And so more than ever, it's really, really important that everyone individually is taking the time to monitor where they are regarding their wellness, as well as possibly warning signs if they're not doing well. Since
And
COVID,
let's talk about that very quickly. Would you give us some of the warning signs, and then I'll go around to our panel and also ask them what they see as some of the warning signs that we're not dealing with this well. But let's be honest, right? All of us, we are up in the air. I remember I went to bed the other night, maybe just a couple of weeks ago, in one world, and then I woke up in another one.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the warning signs that we may not be dealing with this?
Sure, absolutely. Well, overall, just not feeling like your best self. Usually when there are red flags for any form of mental illness or not being mentally well, it directly impacts your thoughts, your emotions, what you feel, and ultimately the actions and the behaviors that you do. So maybe you may not be aware of you not feeling like your best self, but perhaps the people around you see some warning signs that it may be time for you to talk to someone.
And Chris, how about you? Would you give us one or two more warning signs?
I think one of the groups that I deal with a lot are married couples. And it's so important to look for certain signs with the spouse. Maybe they're a lot more edgy, not sleeping well, snapping at the other person. So those are some of the warning signs. And sometimes the individual doesn't even realize that they're doing these things. They don't realize that their actions have changed. So it's important for us as family members to also look for those warning signs in the individuals. And that's some of what we're seeing.
And once we see the warning signs, Samantha, what do we do? What is our responsibility, not just to our families, but also to our communities?
once we're able to identify that they were having these warning signs and we're having these experiences, it is our responsibility to take care of ourselves. As everyone mentioned, some of the triggers, I'm asking my clients about their physical wellness, because stress shows up, in our heartbeat. Stress shows up in our loss of appetite. Depression shows up that way. So I'm asking about some of the physical things that they're experiencing, because honestly, we talk about our physical health in an easier way than we do our mental health. So that way I'm able to work backwards. But right now, we all have to take care of ourselves individually because we have responsibilities. So not only our family members, but the community as well.
All right. And Chris, let me just go back to you real quick before I go to the commissioner. You talked a little bit about the relationship issues. We're starting to get snappy, irritable, and so on. And this is considered somewhat normal now with COVID-19. But what about domestic violence? We've seen an uptick of that in the general population. Are we seeing more of that in our African-American, Caribbean population? And if so, what is it that we should be doing in order to quell those situations and get some help to the victims?
And families are spending a lot more time together now and are kind of closed off, doctor, to the outside world. So now it's more difficult for individuals to get the help that they need, because with quarantine, you're not going to work, you're not going to other places, so people are not seeing it. And it has increased tremendously since COVID-19, since the quarantine, actually. And people still need to seek help. They need to talk to someone. So I would say, if someone's watching this today and you're dealing with domestic violence, don't feel that you're alone. Reach out to someone. You need to reach out.
You could still call. In New York, we have 311. You could still call 911. The police officers will come. Of course, they should be wearing their masks and gloves, but they will come. And it's also important that there are domestic violence hotline numbers, and we post those on the Facebook for this particular organization, so people will have that. Commissioner, I wanted to save this particular question for you because Samika did talk about the issue of people not discussing how they're doing psychologically, so it manifests itself physically in us, right? Because they don't want to talk about the issue, so we see somatization and so on. But we also do know that as African Americans, as Caribbean Americans, we have a predisposition for diabetes, hypertension, right? Other sorts of chronic health issues. And since we are more at risk for COVID-19, what are some of your recommendations to people of color as far as taking care of themselves? Finally, looking at the fact that our physical issues, our poor health, has gotten us into a much more dangerous situation with COVID-19.
Absolutely. So aside from the assistant commissioner department, I'm also an occupational psychologist. And a lot of what we do via messaging is we try to marry our mental health department with our chronic disease department. And the messaging is very important. We live in a very small, very close-knit Caribbean island. And a lot of people, I mean, they're cooking, and that's how they express and show their love. And we appreciate that in a Caribbean culture. But our messaging around COVID-19 has really been about taking care of oneself by watching literally what we put into our bodies, mind, soul, and spirit. Department of Health is all essential. Every last one of our employees are still working. They're working daily. So the stress of having to balance home life with what they're facing, and then having to essentially take care of our entire population as a healthcare worker can cause persons to kind of just intake negativity via food, via non-sleeping, etc. So it is our job to make sure that we provide them the resources to balance that out, make sure we check in with them, check in with their immediate supervisors to see and make sure that they're getting rest, they're intaking enough hydration, and they're beginning to kind of police themselves, if you will, in terms of how they're structuring that day to keep those stress levels down. Because we need the healthcare workers to be healthy at the end of the day.
Absolutely, and it's time for us to turn that corner. And there's nothing wrong with having some delicious, delicious Caribbean food. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it right now. But we have to look at the fact that there's also very, very healthy. Most of our food is healthy food, but we have to stay away from some of those fried foods and so on that can impact us. That should be the special treat, right? So, but let's talk about children. Some of our most vulnerable victims impacted by the crisis. We've heard that perhaps there's a childhood or pediatric form of COVID-19 that resembles Kawasaki disease. What can we do to make sure that our kids are okay, that they are getting their adequate coping skills up and moving, Shauna? What would you say in your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So our practice, we actually have certified play therapists on our staff. And one big piece that's really, really important is psychoeducation. Most children are actually more resilient than we think, but being able to educate them about what COVID-19 is, what precautions they should take is extremely important. And using age-appropriate social stories has been really helpful. But one of the bigger adjustments for children is adjusting to being at school online. Typically, they're at school for 8 to 10 hours of the day. And so the adjustment of having to be home, having to now e-learn has definitely been a hurdle to help them overcome. One piece that's really, really important as well too is reinforcing safety with children, getting them to identify what safe people are, what safe places are, and what safe things are. That's been very, very helpful, especially in all of this uncertainty around them, and being able to have as many teachable moments. Most parents right now, you ask them 6 months ago, would you be a homeschool teacher? They probably would have laughed. But the reality is now, right, we're homeschool teachers. And so having as many teachable moments and open communication if they have questions definitely helps children and adolescents be able to cope.
All right. And Chris, I was waiting for you to come back. We weren't going to let you get away, okay?
I know.
Right. So again, here we are with this New York City kind of situation that's going on, being in the heart of the pandemic. Staying on the topic of the kids, how do we begin to show them to the importance of social distancing? Shauna touched on that a little bit, but now making this part of their lives for some time to come.
And I have to say this to you, I currently live in Atlanta now, but originally from New York. So a lot of family members, they're dealing with it. And I'll give you one instance of something that took place here. A friend of mine, her son wanted to go out and play basketball, what he's normally used to doing. And they got into a little tiff about it because he could not understand, why can't I go out and play basketball with my friends? They're not understanding the seriousness of social distancing. So having a real conversation with the children is important. Sitting down, understanding what they're feeling, and just talking to them is important. It's kind of like, you tell them don't do it, but you need to explain why they should not do it. Not only that they're putting themselves at risk, but they could possibly put those in the home at risk. And I know New York City, it's very difficult coming from Jamaica, Queens, myself, and knowing the massive amount of people that are used to being on the street, even in the subways. You can't imagine social distancing and how tough it must be for them there right now. And especially for the children wanting to go outside and play and they can't.
Well, I think it takes us to this situation of a lot of people, Sameka, think that perhaps we are opening up way too soon. And I know it's become a political situation. Why has it become a political situation? Let me think. because people are demonstrating with AK-47s. But Samantha, seriously, the fact that as people of color, as Latinos, Latinas, that we are more at risk for COVID-19. Do you think that we are moving at the proper speed? Are we moving too slow, too fast? How do we as people of color deal with this in our own time that makes us feel more comfortable and safe?
That's a great question. And I know there are many varying opinions in terms of whether we're doing this too soon or too fast. But one thing that we do need to keep in mind is that we have to assess and take inventory within our household. So one person may think that we're moving too fast with opening things back up. The other person who has already lost their job and are having financial hardship may be awaiting the opportunity to move forward. So in terms of the family and the children, that comes along with having those conversations of why a mom or a dad or auntie or grandmother has to go out and work, and what we will do when they come back home to give them space and time to do what they need to do appropriately so that we can keep ourselves and the family safe. I think there will have to be more conversations like that. And although the states are opening back up, because I'm in Maryland, they opened the states back up on yesterday, but they're still doing county by county. The county executives are making the decisions. So if you look on TV, Ocean City, there were no masks, there was no social distancing, but in Prince George's County, where I am, we are still under a stay-at-home order. So keeping everything in perspective and still operating with safety on our minds.
Commissioner, Dr. Sims, I know you wear many hats, okay. As a public official, one of the things that I find that I think you may know is that not only are we disproportionately affected by COVID-19, the disease itself, but in New York City, for example, there were 45 arrests last week. Out of those 45 arrests, I believe 43 were people of color, 41 was a person of Latino descent, and one person was white. So we do know this issue of profiling continues now even under COVID-19. How do we begin to protect our communities, but also work with our police officers in trying to flatten those kinds of numbers as far as arrests? And Mayor de Blasio just put an edict out yesterday saying that the police officers, perhaps bowing to that kind of pressure, knowing what's going on, will not be making arrests for people not social distancing or not wearing masks if they're not operating in a dangerous way. But from your vantage point, what can we do for the community and working with our law enforcement?
What we've done here in the territory is every step we've taken, we've included leaders of various departments to include the police department. The Virgin Islands, as you may or may not know, is a tourist destination. It is a hub for the beaches and the hotels and the food. So a lot of it's layered so much to include pop-ups of violence and pop-ups of arrest and unfortunately people losing their lives. So when we come together, we make sure that we plan across the board. So everyone has a piece of that puzzle that they put into an overall protection of our community, especially facing COVID-19. We live in a very small place, so you may pass certain areas and people, they congregate. That's how we do in the Caribbean. But the police officers, once they sit with health officials or they sit with the governor's cabinet, they have an understanding of what is, how to approach that group, how to speak to that group, keeping levels down, keeping emotions at bay, how to communicate, how to understand that we're all standing shoulder to shoulder when we're fighting this silent enemy. We can't see it, we can't touch it, it's there, it's happening. So to de-escalate those situations, it really comes from our planning perspective, and we like to include everyone so there's no misunderstanding throughout our government.
Shauna, you are the owner of Revolutionary Change Counseling. And one of the things that we see that is a revolutionary change is that we are embracing telehealth, telepsychology, telemedicine. Its time has come. Do you think that it is really working for us in communities of color with regard to finally having access and leveling the playing field with regard to getting proper medical care?
Yes, emphatically, yes. Part of what our vision and mission is to always provide services that are innovative in regards to mental health treatment and services. And so now that we are pivoting in this digital world of mental health, our practice now exclusively provides online counseling through a HIPAA compliant platform in which you can hop online, similarly to what we're doing right now through a video conference. And it's definitely been beneficial because it allows access to care, and you can reach clientele that may not necessarily have been able to make it into the office due to various barriers. And so being able to speak with your counselor from the comfort of your home has definitely worked well and been beneficial.
All right, and it certainly has been. So I want to take this to all of you, and Commissioner, we can start with you. Certainly, there are going to be major questions throughout our community as to what life will be like for all Americans, but specifically for us. Where do you see us changing for the better? We talked about the importance of exercise and so on, but where do you see us changing as a people, adapting so that we can claim more of the rights and equality in the society after COVID-19 or even during COVID-19?
So in the Caribbean, and specifically where I live, we also have hurricane season to battle. And that's actually coming up very soon. What I'm seeing, and my hope for all of us as a people, is that we're utilizing lessons from COVID-19 to be stronger and more unified. We have developed now into ways of asking for what we need, getting that assistance and planning way ahead. We have gotten into the habit now of stockpiling certain necessities, even on a government level, but more specifically in the home. Persons in our community have taken lessons from what they've seen our leaders do. They're now making sure that their home has a plan. They're making sure that they are communicating with one another, because we live in an all hazards area. COVID-19 just kind of joined the list of what we have to deal with almost on a yearly basis. So for us to have individuals now take ownership, even within the home, spills over into the workplace, spills over into our federal partnerships, and spills over into our Caribbean nations and how we can better work together. And we're already seeing the benefits of those improvements.
And let me ask you, Chris, where have you seen some very positive changes for us as people of color through COVID-19? I guess what the commissioner is saying is now we're woke.
Exactly. I agree with the commissioner. You know, this is allowing us to be more innovative, to look inside ourselves and see what we have that we can utilize to move forward. I think back, Doctor, about 2019, the end of 2019, when we were all on this vision thing. You know, 2020 is coming, we're going to see more clearly. We had all these dreams, we had all these visions. Then January 2020 came, we were excited and ready to go. February came and we were ready to push forward with our visions. And then March came and brought COVID with it. And then our dreams and visions and everything that we planned seemed to go out the window, right? But we cannot forget those things. We have to think about those visions and those dreams that we thought about, we talked about, and we said we were going to do. I know it's tough, we're all in this together, but don't lose sight of your vision. Don't lose sight of those things that you want to do. And in some sense, this has been an opportunity for some people to just just sit in quarantine and take a moment and think about what it is you really need to do and think forward. We need to think forward. And that's why with Coaching Forward, that's what we talk about with our clients and those that call. Think forward. We need to think about what we have inside of us and push forward from there.
And please remind me the next time I see that guy, my very good friend, who during the 2019 New Year's Eve party, who said, yo, 2020 is my year. Remind me to take a taste out of his mouth, okay? So, just joking. I'm not a violent man. Sameka, how about you? What have you seen that has been a very positive change that we can say, yes, we are getting this and we are moving forward?
I have seen a tremendous amount of resiliency, not only in children, but also in adults. I've seen people tapping into their gifts, to their strengths, just like Minister Chris was saying. A lot of times we put our passions, we put those things aside because we're required to go out and work on a bigger goal or go out and be employed, but people are coming up with business ideas. You know, creativity is at a peak. There is a greater appreciation for education, teachers, and the whole, school system. So I think there'll be a greater focus and hopefully more involvement in our educational system, stronger cohesion in family. And I think individuals have also learned that a lot of the things that we thought we needed, it's not a necessity. This really allowed us to slow down and take inventory and assess and see what is it that we truly need to keep our families happy and healthy.
Yes. And Shauna, finally you.
Yes, absolutely. I would definitely say that COVID has been a restoration to compassion and humanity. When you see these families that are separated because of social distancing, and then you turn around and you see families going to parades to celebrate loved ones that they may not be able to spend time with, or where they have family members get together on Zoom calls that they maybe haven't spoken to in several months. The need for that social interaction and that connection has really restored the importance and the value of how important family and love and care and not going through things alone is. So it's definitely been a positive change.
I agree with you. This is a blessing, and this is why we honor people who are on the front lines, like Chris's husband has been, because it allows us to stay home and to rediscover our families. It's fascinating. I was sitting in the living room the other day. Now we get to see everyone's homes, right? So I was sitting in the living room. I did make the mortgage payment. I was sitting in the, I made it late though. I was sitting in the living room the other day, and I'm seeing all these kids running by, and I turned to my wife. I was like, who are these kids running through my house? She was like, those are your kids. I was like, oh, finally I get to raise my kids and recognize who they are. All right. These have been incredible answers that you've given us. You all are just the information that you've given us has been valuable, invaluable, I might add. So now we're going to go and get questions from our incredible audience, and I'm going to pass those questions on to you. And Commissioner, we'll start with you for the first question that came in. This comes to us from Sherry. She says, what are you doing for self-care daily? And I know you talked about this a little bit, but Commissioner, maybe you can share something that other people can also follow.
Absolutely. So as you can imagine, in my job, I'm always in a meeting, always physically running somewhere to be somewhere. I don't have any children of my own, but I have an incredible nephew. And I've finally slowed enough to allow him to do all of the productions that he's always wanted to do for his mom and myself. And I found that to be a tremendous de-stressor. And I've encouraged a lot of parents in our community to take that time and let the little ones sing to you, dance for you, say poems to you, you know, interact with you, do projects, all of the things you always said, I'll be right back, I have to go, I'll be right back, show me later, show me later. Now is a perfect time to set up your living room and have them do all of those wonderful things. And I encourage that. I encourage home projects. I encourage, if you have a yard that is your own, outside, planting a garden, etc. Just all of the things you've always put off for those physical, I have to be's, you can now do at home. And I'm telling you, it would take your mind away from what's happening outside and it would draw you closer to your loved ones.
All right, that is incredible. I love that. I have to tell you, when I look in the faces of children, I see God. And I think this is a lot of what you're saying. All right, Chris, I'm going to send this next one your way. This comes to us from Keisha. How do you handle or deal with people who think things will go back to normal and this will pass? It will just get warm and it'll just go away.
You know, it's funny.
Day and it'll be gone.
It's funny because some people think it's gone already. I stand on some of these lines and I see people they're not wearing a mask and they think that it's not real. But we have to let them know that this is real. I had the air conditioner guy come to my house the other day and he didn't have a mask on. And I was not happy about that. So I offered him a mask and he got offended. You know, he acted as this is not real. This is not really happening. You know, we're making a big deal out of it. But I think not until they know someone that's been affected or someone dealing with it, yes, that's when they'll take it, you know, seriously. So I think just talking to them and educating them. If I see you without a mask, and I guess that's just the mama in me, I'm going to say something to you, you know, and I'll say to you, you know, care about yourself enough to wear that mask. This is just not, it's not just gonna go away. It would be great if it could and things can go back to what we consider normal and not be this our new normal, but it's gonna be around for a while and we just have to understand that and act accordingly, you know? So those that think it's just gonna go away, we just have to educate them and allow them to understand
and I like, Chris, what you're saying, because it's not just about, listen, you better wear this mask or blah, 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 blah. It really is about out of love.
Out of love.
Protect yourself. I want you to protect me. I want you to protect our society, educating them about being asymptomatic, and that if we really do want this to go away, slow but steady wins the race, and we have to follow the proper scientific guidelines. All right, we have questions just pouring in from our viewers, and I think this one is perfect for you, Sameka, because I get the feeling, just by the way you present yourself, that you're a very spiritual person. Am I right about that? I am? Okay.
That is accurate.
All right, so this one is for you. This comes to us from Sharon. How important is the spiritual component to getting past COVID-19? I'll amend that and say, based on what Chris said, how about the spiritual component to dealing with COVID-19 in a positive way? Sharon, I hope you don't mind I changed it just a little bit. What would you say, Sameka?
I would say it's very important. It's one of the most important pieces of working through this. It's important in regards to our mental health, and it is important right now because a lot of us are in a space where we didn't see this coming. You know, it's outside of our control, and that really brings us back to the fact that we're not in control of anything that's going on. You know, there is a higher power, there is a creator. And when we find ourselves in these spaces where we don't have the answers, we have to lean on that. So faith is a huge component in caring for self. And it is something that I definitely encourage with my clients. And when they let me know that they have a strong faith and their spiritual component is a piece of it, I weave it right in. And that's what we're using because that is the ultimate change.
All right. We have some more questions coming up, but let's do this. Let's change up the pace just a little bit, okay? Because this is so fabulous what we've been doing with our incredible experts. Can we bring in our jazz instrumentalist, Joe Granson? Yes? let's bring him in along with pianist Kenny Banks, and they have a very special performance for us. So let's go to Joe Granson and Kenny Banks.
When marimba rhythms start to play, dance with me, make me sway, like a lazy ocean hugs the shore. Hold me close and sway me more, like a flower bending in the breeze. Bend with me and sway with ease. When you dance, you have a way with me. Stay with me, sway with me. Other dancers may be on the floor, but my eyes can see only you. Only you have that magic technique. When we sway, I go weak. I can hear the sound of violins long before it begins. Make me thrill as only you know how. Sway me smooth, sway me now. Other dancers may be on the floor, but my eyes will see only you. Only you have that magic technique. When you sway, I go weak. But I can hear the sound of violins long before it begins. Make me thrill as only you know how. Sway me smooth, sway me now. Make me thrill as only you know how. Sway me smooth, sway me now.
All right, that was wonderful. Thank you, Joe Granson and Kenny Banks. So inspiring, your beautiful music. All right, so we actually have one more question, and I'm going to pose this one. Shauna, this one is going to go to you because you didn't get the last one, so you get the last question, all right? But I will also say to our wonderful panelists, if they would like to, they can also jump in on this too. So let's go ahead and unmute you all. This comes to us from Lexi. And Shauna, she says, do you foresee any lasting psychological scarring as Black people go through COVID-19? And how can therapy actually help them work through the trauma?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do see ongoing psychological scarring. COVID-19 directly impacting our mental health as a Black community has definitely been something that I think is an eye-opener for the Caribbean American, the African American community to really begin to take a stance and be extremely mindful of their mental health and their mental wellness. Because if not, unfortunately, only 1 in 3 African Americans seek the mental health that they need. And my concern is that if this continues, it can create a cycle in which our communities are not at the top in terms of the care that we need. So I don't know if anyone would like to jump on and add, but because of the lack of the resources that we've had as a community, not having enough competent clinicians in the community, there's distrust as well too. As a community, we don't always trust the healthcare system. But I think that conversations like this are really important and necessary so that we are more aware and we can begin to put those resources and tools in place so that this doesn't continue and we don't have long scarring. We as a people are extremely resilient and we've been able to overcome. So I think that this is the same, this is no different. We too can overcome this. It's just a matter of us beginning to take the proper steps as a community and become aware. If you have a local therapist that is culturally competent, that understands the plight of people of color, definitely link and connect yourself with them. There's different programs and organizations that are now doing telehealth. So just knowing that you're not in this alone and that there are people that care.
And that is the key. You are not alone in this. We are learning some valuable lessons, and we know that we must come together as a society. We can no longer be a divided nation, and certainly we as people of color also need to understand that we are more at risk. And as we've heard from our wonderful panelists, we have to get ourselves together and claim the equality, egalitarianism that is our birthright. Thank you so much, Shauna Wilson, licensed mental health counselor and owner of Revolutionary Change in Counseling in Apollo Beach. By the way, one day I'd love to come to Apollo Beach, but I'll have to, of course, follow social distancing and be very careful, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Commissioner, Dr. Nicole Craigwell-Sims, thank you so very much for joining us. And I know that you are a role model, not just for the people in the U.S. Virgin Islands, but for everyone who knows anything about you. And we've gotten to know a lot about you. Thank you so very much. Chris Scott, you were my homegirl, but now you're in Atlanta. I'm not hating because I love Atlanta too. I used to hang out there all the time with the housewives and so on. Now I'm back in the Big Apple. Took the bite, still trying to digest. Thank you for joining us, founder of Coaching Forward International and Coaching Support Helpline based in Metro Atlanta. Thank you so very much for joining us. And last but not least, my new spiritual colleague, Sameka Yisrael Johnson, founder and owner of Committed to the Journey, a counseling practice in Largo, Maryland. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Thank you, panelists. You have been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so very much. Thanks for having me, everyone. It certainly has been a blast. I'm Dr. Jeff Gardier. Thanks for joining us for this conversation. But before we go, we have a very special treat for you. We have an electric and eclectic performance from musician Wadadli Strings. Check it out. See you next time.
for watching. Again, I am with Davy Strings. That's WADAVLI Strings, and you can follow me both on Instagram and Facebook. So thank you so much for having me, and I hope all of you enjoy the rest of the day.
I say na 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 na, I say na 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 na, say na 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 na, I say na 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 na, I say na na na, I say na 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 na, I say na na na, I say na 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 na. I'll never run it easy for the brands and the bling and the expensive thing. Oh, I never run the money, never a nice living. And mama say, oh, you could have it all, just work hard for yours. I say, mama, you know I work hard for sure. Now Jaja bless me with the opportunity to fly country to country. Now I could drink champagne when I thirst. Now I could see only thing I never see. They say this how I eat man so long. But I thank me for the run the family. Now no bad mind boy, they can stop me. On every show I smiling cause trust me, life is so lovely. Whoa, and I'm far from finished. Whoa, and I can't believe it. No, see I'm far from finished. Whoa, love the life that's at the best. I say na na na, I say na na na.
Thank you for joining us for this special episode of Solace Virtual Series. On behalf of the Caribbean American Cultural Arts Foundation, we say stay safe, stay home, and enjoy your solace.